Hello students and welcome to the e-learning program initiated by Shri Gyanmanjari for the students of Standard 10 in which we are learning the subject of English. From the previous lecture we started with the new chapter, chapter number 8 of the main book, that is First Flight. Name of the chapter is Mitchell the Author, written by Gavin Maxwell. In the previous lecture, we learned that Maxwell he lived in a cottage in Comisferna, that is the West Highlands in Scotland, which is a very beautiful countryside, part of the country called Great Britain. But Scotland is a country in itself with a different language, different costume, different way of living, beautiful landscape sceneries, hills, mountains, cliffs touching the sea, and beautiful rivers, streams noisily going through the hills and mountains and meeting the sea. It's a very beautiful countryside where he lived with his dog named Johnny. Johnny died, and the author was grieving for quite a lot of time, and was very sad losing his dog. Dogs, they have a cycle of around 10 to 12 to 15 years depending upon the breed. For so many years Johnny was with the author, and all of a sudden his demise or his death has caused a lot of pain, and immediately the author is not wishing to take another pet because pets come with lots of responsibility. Right now he is in quite a lot of sorrow and does not want to take up any other pet, does not want to adopt any other pet. But his life without a pet became lonely, and he was in search of another pet, and this time he did not want to take up a dog. So he was trying to think about other animals which he can take up for adoption and make that animal his pet. So owning a pet is a lifetime commitment, because for a long time of your life, at least a decade, if dogs and cats are to be considered, at least more than a decade, you have to commit yourself, because the dog or the cat or the pet animal is completely dependent on you. When you have bought the pet, it becomes your responsibility right from the starting, the time when you adopt the pet, whether it's a small puppy or it's a small young one of the cat, that is a kitten. You have to take up all the responsibility, teach it, manner it, look after its needs. Sometimes it gets sick, so you have to take all the responsibility. You have to take out time. Yours is a busy schedule, but the pet remains at home, and most of the time it's quite alone if the person is living single. And then whole of the day that pet is kept in a prison like environment inside the house, quite lonely, quite all alone, and it wants to see you at the end of the day. It wants to enjoy with you, it wants to have all the fun with you, it wants recreation, it wants a walk outside. If it's a dog, it needs lots of love, care, giving proper treatment, vaccination, uh, keeping him mannered, right? Not barking at strangers all the time, not barking at guests when they are in the house. They obey your command, they understand you. So lots of things have to be done, and that is what the starting of the chapter, it advises us upon the responsibility, because when we take up a pet, we take it or we buy it from a pet house, or we are very much attracted because it's very cute. When it's very young, puppies or kittens, they look very cute, they look so lovely, we are just attracted by it, and we take it home, we buy it and take it home. But then people, they purchase pets without any consideration and without the knowledge, uh, of how to keep them, how to take proper care of them. So the basic points are discussed, that annual dog license in accordance to the different country that you are living in, different rules and regulations apply to the pet owners. So you should be uh, very strictly adhering to the norms that are laid down by the government for keeping pets. For example, dog license is a must, vaccination every year is a must. Then, for your own good and for the good of the pet, toilet training, eating habits, eating manners, all of that should be quite looked after. Regular grooming, bathing to keep it neat and clean. Yes, to brush the hair, right? And all this shows that you love the pet, and the pet also reciprocates in that manner, right? Obedience training is a must. uh, that you should forget to feed your pet is not good, but on top of that you should be giving the pet a balanced diet, because uh, it is you who are responsible for giving it food, so it's your responsibility to give that pet a balanced diet. Socialization a very very must. Yes, if we have taught obedience, if we have taught discipline to these pets, then there is no requirement of keeping them on a leash or kept on a chain and a collar. When some guests arrive, they keep on howling, barking at them. Yes, they create nuisance in the house when the guests are there, right? So socialization, they should be just like any other kid whom the parents, they teach all the manners, they teach how to socialize, table manners, etc. So the same things have to be taught to the pet also, so that they socialize, they mix very well with the people who come to your house, with your friends, with your neighbors, with whoever comes to, the stranger comes to house. The animal should be able to look in your eyes and should be able to understand what you want to say, right? They keep on chewing things and spoiling things around, so all that is socialism. And they what regularly need is a daily dose of exercise. When you come home, they are eagerly waiting for you, because whole of the time, whole of the day, they have been kept inside and they are not looked after properly. So they want to be with you, they want to you to take them out for a stroll, for daily dose of exercise. At least once in a week, twice in a week, they should be taken to the garden, park, where they can have the fun they want, and that shows affection. And you should also be playing with them. So all these are necessary steps to be taken and considered when you take a pet for adoption. Now, next thing we learned is Maxwell, he was away in Iraq, and uh, we are told a little bit about otter. Otter, because the author wants an otter as a pet, and that is why when he was in Iraq, he had a very strong wish to buy an otter, young otter, so that when he grows up, it can be a very fond pet with him. So, otters, a little bit information is given to us. Otters are found in large numbers, just like mosquitoes, near the wet areas, the marshland of the near the lakes, rivers, or seas, near Basra. That is a very big town in Iraq. Iraq has mostly broad plains and marshes along the Iranian border, because snow accumulates over there. During the winter time, it's quite cold and lots of snow gathers over there. But when the summer comes, all of a sudden that snow melts and it floods the plain area and settles over there, creating marshes. So that's the best place where otters live. A picture of otter was also shown, just a little bit more taller than a mongoose. And in contrast, London, because that is where the author wants to take his pet otter over there. Totally different climate, totally different type of habitation, because Iran is quite a big country, Iraq is quite a big country, and quite open space is available over there, whereas London is congested, multi-storied buildings are there, and very less area, green area, patches, jungles are available over there, where uh, it's quite cold during the winters and lots of rain happens, and very short span of summer is available. So all these are totally adverse, or you can say opposite climate to which the otter is going to be taken. Then we learned that in early year of 1956, he was traveling to southern Iraq, and then it had crossed his mind, why don't I take an otter as a pet instead of a dog? So uh, he talked to one of his friend that he wanted an otter. So when I casually mentioned that to the friend, that's what the author is saying, he casually replied that he would better get in the Tigris marshes, because there they are available as common as mosquitoes in lots, huge number, and were often tamed by the Arabs. So they were going to the town Basra for to the consulate general, that is the embassy over there, to collect their mails. The friend's mail had arrived, but the author's mail had not arrived, so he had booked a call. In those days, communication was that not that much developed, so you had to book a call 24 hours in advance. On the first day, the line was down. On the second day, there was a holiday. On the third, again, the line was down, either of the places. So it kept on going on like that, and after 5 days, he received his mail. So that is where we stopped. Now we come to the second lecture. We did the revision part. I carried my mail to my bedroom to read, and there, squatting on the floor, squatting, seated on the floor, but it's not actually sitting, it's putting the two legs, folding the two legs, yes, and the bum is just somewhere above the floor. So squatting on the floor were two Arabs. Beside them, a sack was laying, which moved on from time to time. Squirmed, moved a little bit from time to time. They handed me a note written by my friend. Here is your otter. So in that small bag was the otter, and that otter, because it was in a bag and tightly shut from the top, it moved. The whole of the bag moved from time to time. Now we start with part 8.2. With the opening of that sack began a phase of my life that has not yet ended. So once he opened that sack and the otter came out, starts a phase, a part of the life that has not yet come to an end. So and may, for all I know, not end before I do. Right? He had settled upon the otter to be his pet. But the otter, when it's quite young, we saw the picture, it's just like a little bit bigger than a mongoose, fully grown. But when it's small, it's so small that it can hide in very small spaces, and it can run very fast and impossible to catch hold of. So a time started in my life which is yet not over, because the otter is still with me. It is, in fact, a thraldom to otters, an otter fixation that I have since found to be shared by most of the people who have ever owned one. A person who has owned an otter as a pet is so much fixed by the otter, so much fixed. Fixed means he is so much stuck up by the otter that he doesn't want any other animal as his pet. In effect, a thraldom to otters. Thraldom, the same as fixed, because an auto fixation. Auto fixation means you are so much fixed, you are so much attracted beyond doubt that you do not want any other pet other than an otter. So, thraldom to otters, that means you're so much obsessed by that animal, you're so much attracted and fixed by that animal that you simply like it, you simply love it, right? So, thraldom to otters, an otter fixation that I have since found by most of the people, those who own an otter as a pet. The creature that emerged from the sack onto the spacious tiled floor of the consulate bedroom resembled most of all a very small, medievally conceived dragon. So, he was seeing the otter for the first time. So, when the young otter, jumped out of the sack, when he opened it, a creature that came out of that bag emerged from that sack onto the spacious having lots of room. It was a consulate general bedroom because people come from outside to collect their mail, etc. So guest rooms are there, bedrooms are available to them. So he was living in one of the consulate general's bedroom, and that was quite spacious because you don't need anything else. You just need a few clothes of yours, and you stay for 2 3 nights and you go away. So consulate bedroom resembled most of a very small in comparison to that huge expanse of tile that is the bedroom. That creature looked very small, medievally conceived. Medievally, that means not too small, not too big. As we have studied in history, history is always divided into three parts: ancient, medieval, and modern. Right? So medieval is not ancient, not modern, somewhere lying in between. So here, medievally conceived, thought to be of not a small size, not a bigger size, and looks like a dragon. So somewhere in between a mouse and a dragon. Yes, medievally conceived. Doesn't look exactly like a dragon, doesn't look exactly like a small mouse, somewhere in between. From the head to the tip of the tail, he was coated with symmetrical pointed scales of mud armor. He was freshly brought from the marshes, caught from his mud hole, or you can say the burrow that it makes, right? So it was caught from over there, and it was all covered in mud. But the main thing over here to see, head to tip of the tail, he was coated with symmetrical pointed scales. Now pointed scales, you know, we have it on the fish. Yes, they are something like this. If you have been drawing fish, then you must have seen scales like this. Yes, but here the scales will be pointed. Here the scales will be pointed like this. So on top of that, mud had accumulated and still sticky, not completely dry. Pointed scales of mud armor, right? The mud had stuck over there, and now it was semi wet, so it looked like an armor. Armor means something which protects your body, between whose tips was visible a soft velvet fur like that of. So in between that you can find the chocolate brown mole, that is the face. Let's see it again. Between whose tips was visible. Tips on the front side. Front side will be the nose. Soft velvet fur. So on the nose, the little bit fur is clear because it has to take breath. So it is a little bit clear, and the animal always keeps its nose clear because it has to take in the air. So it was velvet fur like, soft in touch, chocolate brown mole, a hole. He shook himself, and I had half expected a cloud of dust, but in fact it was not for another month that I managed to remove the last of the mud and see the otter as it were in its true colors. When it shook itself, for example, the dog, when it gets wet, it shakes itself off the water. It wants to take off the water droplets, and it shakes itself. Right? So the same way, the otter is trying to shake itself free from the mud. But the mud is quite sticky, and it has gone half dry. So the mud does not arise a cloud of dust when it is shaken. It sticks over there because it is sticking on its fur, and laboriously for one next month the author had to keep on rubbing it to take out, because if you take out the dried powdered like soil from the top of the animal, it will also take away its hair. So you have to remove it slowly by washing it regularly. So after 1 month, the animal was clear of its mud that was sticking on its skin and the hair. So for another month that I managed to remove the last of the mud, and then I was able to see the true color of otter. Midgebill, the name given always pets, because we talked about that in the starting of this lecture also and the previous lecture also. Pets are always considered as family members. So each and every family member has a name. So this otter, which has been adopted by the author as a pet, so a name has to be given. So Mijbil is the name given to the otter. Mijbil, as I called the otter, was in fact of a race previously unknown to science. Here, the author is not exaggerating a little bit, because he might have learnt or he might have read about authors, say from books and magazines. Okay, of course, internet was not there at that time, so he must have learnt whatever he learnt, must have read it somewhere, but it didn't clearly tell you everything about authors. So here he says in a sarcastic manner that otter as a race here has all different type of subspecies in it, right? So if otter, then mongoose is also of the same family, right? Bigger mice also belongs to the same family, because all of them usually they dig a burrow and live over there. So if all those parts which the science taught them about animals, science did not know much about otters, previously unknown to science. And at length, christened by zoologists as this is the scientific name of an otter. In science, by now you must have learned that all the species of animal kingdom, plant kingdom, all the species which are identified, subspecies that are identified, are given a unique scientific name. Yes, they have their own common name. That common name usually differs from region to region, country to country, region wise, continent wise. The name may differ, so there is a lots of confusion. Yes, a rabbit over here, depending upon the size, the locals call it by different name, but the same rabbit, if it's found in some another color in some another country, then that rabbit will be known by another name. So there arises lots of confusion. So to remove that confusion, each and every species, whether animal kingdom, animals, birds, plants, fish, all of them are given a unique scientific name. So after, because science was not able to do lots of investigation in this particular species, so it gave the zoologist christian. Christian means to give a name. Yes, for example, in each and every religion there is always a ceremony where the name of the child is kept on that particular day, and that celebration or that ceremony is known as christening ceremony, right? So it is Christian, so it's given a name. That must have happened with you also, right? When you were quite young, yes, just born, 2, 3, 5 days later, or maybe 1 week later, 1 month later, the name was given to you, holding a small ceremony. So that is called christening. So at length, christened by zoologists. Zoologists, people who search on animals and birds, etc. Lutrogale Perspicillata maxwelli. That is the name given to, the scientific name given to otter. Lutrogale Perspicillata maxwelli. That is the name given, or Maxwell's otter is the name. Here we see that the name of the author, surname of the author is also Maxwell, and author is also named Maxwell otter. For the first 25, that is the question that the scientist, the zoologist, either didn't know me or didn't know the author very well, and that is why we both have the same name. My name is also Maxwell, surname, and the author is also known as Maxwell's otter. For the first 24 hours, Mijbil was neither hostile nor friendly. Yes, the otter is in a new environment. Whenever a pet comes in a new environment, of course, even if it's a very very young one, very young, freshly born, or just 2 3 days or one week within the birth, yes, it very well gets adjusted with the new environment, because wherever you take it, it's new for him, right? And very well it gets into that, blends into that environment. But here the otter had been living in the jungle, it had been living in the marshes. It's quite accustomed to living in the marshes. Right here, you just have a tile floor, nowhere to hide, and only one person who keeps all the doors and windows closed. So literally, there is no escape except that person over there, right? And now the author doesn't know whether that person is a friend or a foe. That's an enemy. So for the first 24 hours, it was just watching the author. Author was watching the author, yes, to take a move or to try to become friendly or try to harm it. So for the first 24 hours, Majbil was neither hostile, too much aggressive and trying to fight out his way out or trying to attack the author. And neither he was friendly. He didn't come near and try to be friends with the author, that is Maxwell. He was simply aloof, staying away. Yes, lonely, right? He either must have gone under the bed or under some furniture or just lying in corner where he can see whatever is going around it, and whenever there is a chance he can escape. Yes, so these animals, they are very much aware of their surrounding and their eyes are very watchful. They always have an escape plan. So he was just sitting, or he must have cuddled into a corner and he was just watching the author move here and there. He was neither hostile, didn't aggressively attack the author, nor he was trying to be friendly. He was just aloof. That means he was all alone in some corner of the room and indifferent. Indifferent means totally not paying attention to whatever is happening, because he is seeing a man for the perhaps for the first time, a human being for the first time. Environment is quite new to him, but he doesn't give a damn about it. For him, until he is safe, until no harm is done to it, it's just going to lie over there and keep on watching, indifferent to whatever is happening, choosing to sleep on the floor as far as from my bed as possible, as far off from my bed as possible. He was trying to take some sleep very far away from the author so that he doesn't disturb the author, doesn't give the author any excuse to do any harm to him. So he was quite away from the author, lying somewhere in a corner maybe, and trying to be as quiet as possible, just keeping a watchful eye and trying to get a small sleep or a nap in between. Right? So he, for the first 24 hours, was quiet and just watchful, cautious. The second night, Mijbil came on to my bed in the small hours and remained asleep in the crook of my knees until the servant brought tea in the morning. So, by 24 hours, the animal was quite sharp and it understood that there is no danger from the other animal, that is the human being present over there, and he means no harm. At night, we know the author is in Iraq, so at night it gets a little bit cold. If the otter was in his natural habitat, he might have gone into his burrow and he might be quite warm over there, but here he is quite in the open. The room is quite cold if you do not have any warm clothing or something warm to cover you with. So the next night, otter didn't become friendly, but then he was feeling cold, so he climbed up on to the bed of the otter and he cuddled itself somewhere in between his knees so that he can feel the warmth of the body of the otter, and he was sleeping very nicely because till now he came to understand that there is no danger from this human being. So he's trying to be comfortable himself. He is trying to give itself some warmth, right? So it found the heat of the human being, that is the author, and it tried to cuddle over there so that it can feel a little bit warm. And he, of course, when you feel comfortable, you go to sleep. And we must understand that since last 24 hours, perhaps he did not have a good sleep because he was constantly thinking of about itself being in danger when this human being will come and harm him. So he might have a nap, but he didn't have a complete sleep. This night he had a very sound sleep, because now he is not afraid of the author, and he found warmth. The body was comfortable, and the body automatically goes to sleep when we find ourselves comfortable. Maybe it's under the blanket also, right? Because author might be covering himself with blanket, and so he must have got under the blanket and also find a suitable place in between the legs of the author and cuddled over there, for felt the warmth of the um, mattress, warmth of the cover and blanket, or and warmth of the body of the author also. So he was already tired, completely exhausted, and now he is comfortable, so he might have gone to sleep, and he kept sleeping over there till the next morning. The servant brought tea, and some things started. What was that? And during the day, he began to lose his apathy and take too keen interest in his surroundings. So until now, it was quite in some uh, sad or sorrow state where he was taken away from his habitat. He is in between unknown species, might have seen them for the first time, right? But now he is least bothered because he feels totally safe in between the human beings, and now it is time to search the environment. So he was taking keen interest in all his surroundings. I made a body belt for him and took him on a lead to the bathroom. Yes, so a leash is always required, otherwise otter is so small it can just go out from a small crack without harming itself, and then once it is out, because it's not your pet, it won't come back, right? So that is why with lots of difficulty somebody has gifted him with an otter, so he needs some protection so that the otter does not run away. So a body belt was made for him, and on the leash, controlled, the otter Maxwell took the otter to the bathroom, where for half an hour he went wild with joy, because this is the habitat he is comfortable with, and he has lived up till his life in this particular environment, right? That is water. So seeing water, a bathtub filled with water, he is so much excited so that for half an hour he just kept playing with it. Yes, for half an hour he went wild with joy. You can understand a frog who lives in the water, you take it out and then after 24 hours you release it back in the water. Yes, some restricted area where you can keep a watch on him, for example a bucket or a small tub. Yes, it goes wild because it has been taken out from its habitat and returned after 24 hours or 36 hours. It gets mad, yes, going back. So he very wildly, he was enjoying the water, plunging and rolling in it, shooting up and down the length of the bathtub underwater. That is what otters do. They live in the water, they find their food in the water. And otter is a carnivorous animal because it lives inside the water, it lives in a burrow that's in water, and the favorite food of course is the aquatic animals, that is fishes and all whatever he finds on land or on in the water. So it's a very good swimmer. It can be underwater for quite a long time. That is, of course, a gift to the otters, and it can run very well the bottom of the water. That is riverbed, etc. It can run very well. That is, it can swim very well and plunging and rolling it, shooting up and down the length of the bathtub underwater, and making enough bath slush and splash for a hippo. He was so mad and having such a lot of fun in the water that the sound made by him of water was enough to annoy a hippo. Even a hippo, given his size, if it jumps in the hippo cannot jump into the water, right? But even if he enjoys himself in some marshy water, splashing and splashing, right? These are the sounds made by water. Both of them are sound words. Then even a hippo cannot make the sounds made by the otter. That much love the otter had for water. This I was to learn is a characteristics of otters. He learned the first characteristic of water. As dogs, they need a stroll outside, they need a walk outside, they need a sprint run. Yes, the favorite game of the dogs is the owner. He throws a twig or a ball, and the dog runs like anything to bring to go to the stick, thrown stick or the ball, and catches it in its mouth and brings it back to the owner again to throw it. So that it wants to play. That's the favorite thing. So that is the characteristic of a pet dog. Same way, this is the characteristic of the otter. That means now the otter has to take out time and take the otter to the bathroom or near water so that it can enjoy water, because for a long time otters cannot remain without water. It needs time to time that recreation. It wants that touch with the water. Yes, so I understood now that this was a characteristic of an otter. Every drop of water must be, so to speak, extended and spread about the place. This is the characteristics. Playing with water, playing in the water is a different thing, but splashing it all around and being happy with the sound and the splashing of the water everywhere in the bathroom except the tub that you are in. So that is the characteristic of the otter. It loves water and loves playing in the water, and it really loves splashing and spreading the water as far as possible. Each and every drop must be spread as far as possible from the source. A bowl must at once be overturned. Another one. Bowl. Bowl is it is kept for even the dogs. Yes, it's kept for food. Yes, but if that bowl is carrying water or any liquid, it should be overturned so that the liquid inside it spreads on the floor and then he enjoys water. Or if it will not be overturned, to be set in and splashed it until it overflows. If that bowl or that container is large enough and beyond its capacity to overturn it or to drop it on the ground and spill the liquid in it, if it is that big, then it is the correct size to fit inside it and splash so much that, or sit inside it so the water level will rise and overflow. That by any means water should not be in a container. It should be splashed over the floor, and the floor should be wet, and that is what the otter likes. Water must be on the move and made to do things. The otter, his characteristic is water should not be stagnant. Water should constantly be moving, because otters are found in marshes where there is lots of water, lots of soil. Water is more than soil, so water stays above the soil, and that is what it wants, that it should not remain at a place, it should be constantly moving. So water should be on a move. It should not be kept stagnant in a small bowl or in a big container. If it is small, it should be overturned so that water is moving. If the container is big, then you should be able to fit in it so that you can splash and the liquid is or the water is outside. When static, it is wasted and provoking. A very good line by the author. When the water is static, static means not moving. Over here, static means not moving. So when the water is not moving, it means that something should be done. Provoking means it attracts attention and something should be done to it so that water moves. So either way, if it is too small, it can be easily overturned and water can be moving. If it is too big container, then you go inside it and splash the water outside or make it overflow the container in one way so the water moves. Static water, it's a waste, right? It's no good, so it should be made to move. That is what the characteristic of an otter is, because simply it loves water and moving water. 2 days later, Miss Bill escaped from my bedroom, and as I entered it, I turned to see the tail disappearing around the bend of the corridor to the that led to the bathroom. So, till 2 days, author was able to keep an eye on Mitchell, but 2 days later, Mitchell found an escape. It escaped my room as I entered it, because to enter the room he has to open the door, and that crack is small enough for us, but it is large enough for the Mitchell otter to escape from it. So just as I opened the bedroom door, it came out of the room and made headway the direction towards the bathroom. Yes, because now it knows the environment it is in. It knows where the bathroom is, right? So it escaped over there. By the time I got there, he was up on the end of the bathtub and fumbling at the chromium taps with his paws. See, the otter, Mitchell, is quite clever also. First thing, it knows that it's his time to play with water, so it is just trying to find a little space, a little crack from which he can escape from the bedroom. The otter has caged him in his bedroom. Now, when the author comes from outside, he opens the bedroom, and that small crack, he comes out. But he doesn't escape anywhere else. His straight direction is towards the bathroom. He knows the direction. He knows the path to the bathroom. So, even before the author realizes that Mitchell escaped, he can see his tail disappearing into the bathroom, and when the author reached the bathroom and opened the door, he found Mitchell on top of the bathtub. The bathtub, usually it should be kept dry, empty, right? It is not having water. But Mitchell is quite clever, and he knows the source of water. The source of water in the bathtub is the tap, and a tap can always be opened by the hand. Now, clearly, with the help of his forelimbs, the otter or Mitchell, he is fumbling with the tap to make it open, because he has seen the author doing it, and these small things, they catch up these things very, very quickly, and they learn from their owners. So he knew that this is the source of water because he had seen the author opening the tap and allowing the water to flow into the bathtub. So he is doing the same because he found the bathtub dry. I watched and amazed. In less than a minute, he had turned on the tap far enough to produce a trickle of water. He was fumbling. He was trying to open the tap, and after a minute, he was successful in opening the tap. At least a trickle is coming out of the tap, far enough to produce a trickle of water. After a moment or two, achieved full flow, because we know when we turn on the tap, it's tight, right? So when we open it a little bit, then it becomes loose, and then we just have to give a few more turns and the tap is on the full. So this is what the otter had also learned. So he knew that earlier few moments will be difficult to open the tap, but once the tap is a little bit loose, then it will be easy. So within few seconds he was able to open the tap fully, and he achieved the full flow from the tap. That means now he can play in the bathtub. He had been lucky to turn the tap the right way. That means the otter had learnt it. He had been closely watching the otter to do it, in which way to turn, right? And it's simple maths, right? Just to see whether a left turn is there or a right turn is there, right? And he managed to do it in the correct way. So we stop over here for the day. Students, thank you.